What happens when the grocery store shelves go empty and you have nothing growing in your backyard? It is a thought that keeps a lot of gardeners up at night. After 3 decades of growing my own food, I have learned which crops actually keep you fed when it matters most. Today, I am sharing 30 survival crops that deliver real calories, real nutrition, and real storage life. Stick around for number 24, a forgotten grain most people overlook, and a bonus tip at the end that could change how you plan your entire garden. The first survival crop on our list is potatoes. These are the backbone of any food security garden, because nothing else gives you this many calories per square foot. Kennebec is the variety I recommend for most home growers. It produces heavy yields of large, smooth tubers that store beautifully for months in a cool, dark, humid spot like a root cellar or unheated basement. You can grow potatoes in zones 3 through 10 as an annual crop, and they are incredibly forgiving even for beginners. Plant them in loose, well-drained soil, about 4 inches deep, and hill up soil around the stems as they grow to increase your harvest. One bed of potatoes can feed a family for weeks, and the leftovers become seed potatoes for next year. The second crop that belongs in every survival garden is sweet potatoes. Where regular potatoes thrive in cooler conditions, sweet potatoes love the heat. Beauregard is my go-to variety because it matures reliably and produces those gorgeous orange roots packed with vitamins and calories. You can grow them in zones 5 through 11 as long as you have warm summers, and properly cured roots will store for 6 to 10 months at warm, humid temperatures around 55 to 60 degrees. Start with slips planted after your last frost when the soil is warm. Give them plenty of space to sprawl and let the vines grow without too much fuss. When fall comes, cure them in a warm spot for about 10 days before storing, and you will have food well into spring. The third survival crop we need to talk about is dry beans. These are your protein and calorie powerhouse, and they are one of the easiest crops to store long-term. Pinto beans in a bush variety work wonderfully for home gardens because they do not need trellising and produce abundantly in zones 3 through 10. Plant them after the last frost in well-drained soil, give them moderate water, and let the pods dry right on the plant until they rattle. Once fully dried, shell them out and store in a cool, dry place. Properly dried beans can last for years and give you the foundation for countless meals. They also fix nitrogen in your soil, improving it for whatever you plant next. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps this video reach more gardeners like yourself who would also find this information helpful. All right, let's continue. The fourth crop on our survival list is winter squash. Few vegetables give you as much food security as a well-grown butternut or Hubbard squash. Waltham butternut is my recommended variety because it stores exceptionally well, often lasting 3 to 6 months in a cool, dry location. You can grow winter squash in zones 3 through 10 as an annual, planting after your last frost in rich soil with plenty of room to spread. Give each plant about 50 square feet if you can, and let the fruits mature fully on the vine until the stems turn dry and corky. Harvest before hard frost, cure in a warm spot for about 10 days, and then move them to storage. Each squash is a self-contained meal waiting on the shelf. The fifth survival crop every serious gardener should consider is grain corn. This is not sweet corn for eating fresh off the cob. This is dent or flint corn that you dry down and grind into cornmeal for tortillas, polenta, and bread. Bloody Butcher is a beautiful heirloom dent variety that grows well in zones 3 through 10 and produces deep red kernels perfect for milling. The key to growing grain corn is planting in blocks rather than rows so the wind can pollinate the tassels properly. Give each plant about a square foot of space. Keep it well watered during tasseling, and let the ears dry completely on the stalk before harvest. Once the kernels are hard and dry, shell them off and store in a cool, dry place. A small patch of grain corn can provide staple calories for months. The sixth crop that deserves a spot in your survival garden is storage onions. Onions may not be calorie-dense, but they are the flavor foundation of almost every meal you will cook from your stored harvest. Copra is the variety I trust most because it was bred specifically for long storage, lasting up to 8 months when properly cured and kept cool and dry. You can grow storage onions in zones 3 through 9, starting from seed, sets, or transplants in early spring. Let the tops fall over and dry naturally, then cure the bulbs in a warm, airy spot for a few weeks until the necks are completely dry. Store them in mesh bags or braids where air can circulate, and you will have onions well into the following spring. The seventh survival crop on our list is garlic. Like onions, garlic adds essential flavor to simple meals, but it also offers impressive storage life and medicinal value that has been trusted for centuries. Inchellium Red is a softneck variety that can store for up to 9 months in cool, dry conditions, making it ideal for long-term food security. Plant garlic in the fall about 4 to 6 weeks before your ground freezes, setting cloves 2 inches deep with the pointed end up. Mulch heavily, let it overwinter, and harvest the following summer when the lower leaves begin to brown. Cure the bulbs in a shady, well-ventilated area for several weeks, then trim and store. One fall planting gives you a full year of flavor. The eighth crop we need to discuss is storage cabbage. When you want volume and nutrition from a cool weather garden, few crops deliver like a heavy-headed storage cabbage. Danish ballhead is the classic variety for this purpose, producing dense, tight heads that can weigh 6 to 8 pounds and store for months in cold, very moist root cellar conditions. You can grow storage cabbage in zones 2 through 9, starting seeds indoors in early spring or midsummer for a fall harvest. Transplant into rich soil, keep the plants consistently watered, and harvest after a few light frosts which actually improve the flavor. Store heads with roots attached or wrapped loosely in a cold, humid cellar around 32 degrees. A row of storage cabbage can carry you through the entire winter. The ninth survival crop worth growing is storage carrots. Carrots are one of the most reliable cool season crops for putting away calories and nutrition that last well into winter and beyond. Bolero is my recommended variety because it resists disease and holds up beautifully in cold, moist storage for months at a time. Grow them in zones 3 through 9 by direct sowing into loose, rock-free soil in spring or late summer for a fall harvest. Keep the soil consistently moist during germination, thin the seedlings to give roots room to develop, and harvest after a few frosts have sweetened the roots. Store unwashed carrots in damp sand or sawdust in a root cellar, and they will stay crisp and delicious until you need them. The 10th survival crop you should be growing is beets. Beets give you incredible value because you get 2 foods in one: nutritious roots for storage and tender greens for fresh eating throughout the season. Detroit Dark Red is the tried-and-true variety that has fed generations of gardeners, producing uniform, deep red roots that store well in cold, very moist conditions for months. You can grow beets in zones 2 through 10 as an annual direct sowing seeds in early spring or late summer. Thin the seedlings early and use those thinnings as salad greens. Harvest roots after light frosts for sweeter flavor, twist off the tops leaving an inch of stem, and store unwashed in damp sand or sawdust in a root cellar. Beets are one of those quiet workhorses that keep giving long after the garden has gone to sleep. The 11th crop on our survival list is rutabaga. If you have never grown rutabaga, you are missing out on one of the most underrated storage vegetables in the garden. American purple top is the classic variety, producing big, dense roots that thrive in cool weather and store for extended periods in cold, very moist conditions. Rutabagas grow well in zones 3 through 9 and need a long, cool growing season to develop properly. Sow seeds in early to midsummer so the roots mature in fall's cooler temperatures. Give them plenty of water and space, and harvest after several hard frosts, which convert starches to sugars and improve the flavor dramatically. Store them in a root cellar with high humidity, and you will have hearty, filling food when other vegetables are long gone. The 12th survival crop we need to cover is turnips. Turnips are the speedsters of the root vegetable world, bulking up fast and giving you both edible greens and storable roots from a single planting. Purple Top White Globe is the variety most gardeners trust, and for good reason. It matures quickly, tastes mild, and stores well in cold, very moist conditions throughout winter. You can grow turnips in zones 2 through 9, sowing directly in early spring or late summer for the best results. They tolerate light frost and actually taste sweeter after a cold snap. Harvest when roots are 3 to 4 inches across, trim the tops, and store in damp sand or sawdust in a root cellar. A few rows of turnips can fill your belly when fresher options run out. The 13th crop that belongs in your food security garden is parsnips. Parsnips are the secret weapon of cold climate gardeners because they actually get sweeter after frost, converting their starches to sugars as the ground chills. Hollow Crown is the heirloom variety that has proven itself for over a century, producing long, creamy white roots that store beautifully in cold, very moist conditions. Grow parsnips in zones 3 through 9 by direct sowing in early spring into deeply worked, loose soil. Be patient with germination because parsnip seeds are notoriously slow to sprout, sometimes taking 3 weeks or more. Thin seedlings, keep the bed weeded and leave roots in the ground until after several hard frosts. You can even mulch heavily and dig them through winter as needed. Few vegetables reward patience like parsnips do. The 14th survival crop on our list is Jerusalem artichoke, also called sunchoke. This is one of the most carefree perennial foods you can grow, and it solves a problem most storage crops cannot. Instead of harvesting and storing tubers in a cellar, you simply leave them in the ground and dig as needed throughout the cold season. Stampede is a recommended variety that matures earlier than most, which is helpful in shorter season areas. Jerusalem artichokes grow in zones 3 through 9 and will come back year after year once established. Plant tubers in spring about 4 inches deep in a spot where they can spread, because they will spread. Harvest after frost has killed back the tall stalks, taking only what you need and leaving the rest for later. The ground becomes your refrigerator, and fresh food is always just a shovel away. The 15th survival crop every food security gardener should know about is dry peas, sometimes called soup peas. These are not the snap peas or snow peas you eat fresh from the vine. These are peas you let mature and dry down completely for long-term pantry storage. Wando is an excellent variety because it tolerates heat better than most, extending your growing window in zones 3 through 9. Plant dry peas in early spring as soon as the soil can be worked because they love cool weather and will struggle once summer heat arrives. Let the pods turn brown and papery on the vine, then harvest and shell them out. Spread the dried peas in a single layer for a few more days to ensure they are fully dry, then store in jars in a cool, dry place. A bag of homegrown split pea soup in January feels like a gift from your past self. The 16th crop that earns a place in your survival garden is fava beans, also known as broad beans. Favas are an early-season legume that handles cold weather far better than common beans, giving you a protein source when most other crops are just getting started. Aqua Dulce Claudia is the variety I recommend because it tolerates frost and produces reliably, even in cooler climates. You can grow fava beans in zones 2 through 10 as an annual, planting in very early spring or even fall in mild winter areas. The plants grow upright and sturdy, producing thick pods filled with large, meaty beans. For dry storage, Let the pods mature fully on the plant until they turn black and leathery, then shell and dry the beans completely. Stored in a cool, dry spot, they will keep for years and provide hearty protein when you need it most. The 17th survival crop on our list is kale. When it comes to greens that keep producing long after other crops have given up, kale stands alone. Lacinato, sometimes called dinosaur kale, is my favorite variety because of its rich flavor and exceptional cold hardiness. You can grow kale in zones 3 through 9, and it will keep producing edible leaves well into winter, often surviving temperatures in the low 20s or even colder with some protection. Start seeds indoors in early spring or midsummer. Transplant into rich soil, and harvest outer leaves as needed while letting the center continue growing. Frost actually improves the flavor by converting starches to sugars. When other greens have bolted or frozen, kale keeps going, stretching your fresh food availability deep into the cold months when every bite of nutrition counts. The 18th crop that deserves serious attention is Swiss chard. If you want a single green that produces from spring through fall and handles both heat and cold, Swiss chard is your answer. Ford Hook Giant is the classic variety, with thick white stems and large crinkled leaves that keep coming back no matter how many times you harvest. Grow Swiss chard in zones 3 through 10 by direct sowing or transplanting after your last frost. It tolerates summer heat that would send lettuce and spinach bolting, and it shrugs off light frosts in fall. Harvest outer leaves regularly to encourage continuous production, and you can often pick from the same plants for 6 months or longer. The stems are edible too, adding bulk to soups and stir-fries. For steady, reliable greens across multiple seasons, Swiss chard is hard to beat. The 19th survival crop we need to discuss is spinach. Spinach is one of the fastest cool season greens you can grow, giving you nutrient-dense harvests in as little as 30 to 40 days from sowing. Giant Winter is an excellent variety for food security because it handles cold exceptionally well and often overwinters in zones 3 through 9, giving you fresh greens in early spring before anything else is ready. Direct sow spinach in early spring or late summer, keeping the soil consistently moist during germination. Harvest outer leaves for cut-and-come-again production, or pull entire plants for a larger one-time harvest. Succession plant every few weeks to maintain a steady supply. Spinach bolts quickly in heat, so focus your efforts on spring and fall plantings. When stored food gets monotonous in late winter, a fresh spinach salad feels like a miracle. The 20th survival crop on our list is sunflower grown for seed and oil. Most people think of sunflowers as cheerful garden decorations, but the right varieties produce dense, calorie-rich seeds packed with healthy fats that store for months. Perennials is the variety to grow if you want serious seed production, originally bred for oil crops and still trusted by growers worldwide. Sunflowers thrive in zones 2 through 11 as an annual, handling a wide range of conditions with minimal fuss. Direct sow seeds after your last frost, spacing plants about a foot apart, and watch them shoot up over the summer. Let the heads dry on the stalk until the back turns brown and the seeds loosen easily. Cut the heads, rub out the seeds, and dry them completely before storing in a cool, dry place. A row of sunflowers gives you snacking seeds, cooking oil potential, and a reason to smile every time you walk past. The 21st crop that belongs in any serious survival garden is peanuts. If you live in a warm climate with long summers, peanuts offer something most garden crops cannot: dense calories and healthy fats from a plant you grow yourself. Tennessee Red Valencia is an excellent variety for home gardens, producing flavorful nuts that mature reliably in zones 7 through 11. Plant peanuts after your soil has warmed thoroughly, spacing them about 6 inches apart in loose, sandy soil. As the plants grow, they send down pegs that burrow into the soil and form the peanuts underground. Keep the soil loose and slightly moist, and harvest when the foliage begins to yellow in fall. Dig the entire plant, shake off the soil, and cure the peanuts in a warm, airy spot for several weeks. Properly dried peanuts store well and deliver survival calories that few other homegrown crops can match. The 22nd survival crop we need to cover is paste tomatoes for canning and drying. Fresh tomatoes are wonderful, but they do not last. Paste tomatoes, on the other hand, turn your summer harvest into shelf-stable food that feeds you all winter long. San Marzano is the gold standard variety, producing meaty, low-moisture fruits perfect for sauce, paste, and drying. Grow paste tomatoes in zones 3 through 10 as an annual, starting seeds indoors and transplanting after all frost danger has passed. Stake or cage the plants, water consistently, and harvest when fruits are fully ripe and deeply colored. Process your harvest into jars of sauce, cans of crushed tomatoes, or trays of dried tomato pieces. A productive paste tomato patch can fill your pantry shelves with food that tastes like summer, even in the darkest days of February. The 23rd crop that earns a spot in your food security plan is lentils. Lentils are one of the easiest protein crops to grow and store, and they cook faster than dried beans, saving fuel when resources are limited. Eston is a reliable green lentil variety that performs well in home gardens, particularly in cooler regions with relatively dry summers. You can grow lentils in zones 3 through 9 as an annual direct sowing in early spring as soon as the soil can be worked. The plants are short and bushy, producing small pods that dry down nicely on the plant. Harvest when most pods have turned brown. Pull or cut the plants, and let them finish drying under cover. Thresh out the seeds and store in a cool, dry place. Lentils keep for years and cook into hearty soups and stews that stretch your food supply further than you might expect. The 24th survival crop on our list is amaranth grown for grain. This is the forgotten crop I mentioned at the beginning, and it deserves far more attention than it gets. Amaranth was a staple food for ancient civilizations, and it produces tiny, protein-rich seeds that store beautifully and cook into porridge, flour, or pop snacks. Plainsman is a grain variety bred specifically for seed production, thriving in heat that would stress most other crops. Grow amaranth in zones 3 through 11 as an annual direct sowing after your last frost into warm soil. The plants grow tall and dramatic, producing large seed heads that mature in late summer. Harvest when seeds begin to drop, cut the heads, and dry them thoroughly before threshing. As a bonus, young amaranth leaves are edible as nutritious greens. Few crops give you this much versatility from a single planting. The 25th survival crop every prepared gardener should consider is sorghum grown for grain. If you live in a hot, dry climate where corn struggles to produce, sorghum offers a drought-tolerant alternative that has fed people across Africa and Asia for thousands of years. Dwarf white Milo is an excellent variety for home gardens, staying compact enough to manage while still producing abundant grain heads. You can grow sorghum in zones 5 through 10 as an annual direct sowing into warm soil after your last frost. Space plants about 6 inches apart and give them full sun. Sorghum handles poor soil and low water far better than most grain crops, making it valuable insurance in unpredictable growing seasons. Let the seed heads dry fully on the stalk, then harvest and thresh out the small round grains. Grind them into flour for flatbreads and porridge, and you have a staple calorie source that asks very little of your garden. The 26th crop that adds real value to a survival garden is hot peppers for drying. When you are eating stored beans, grains, and root vegetables day after day, flavor becomes more than a luxury. It becomes essential for morale. Cayenne Long Slim is the variety I recommend because it dries easily, stores indefinitely, and adds serious heat to simple meals. Grow hot peppers in zones 4 through 11 as an annual, starting seeds indoors early and transplanting, After all, frost danger is past. The plants produce abundantly through summer and into fall, giving you far more peppers than you can eat fresh. String them up and let them air dry completely, or use a dehydrator if you have one. Stored in a cool, dry place, dried cayenne peppers will last for years. A single jar of homegrown pepper flakes can transform bland survival food into something you actually look forward to eating. The 27th survival crop on our list is cucumbers grown specifically for pickling. Fresh cucumbers are refreshing, but they spoil quickly. Pickling cucumbers, on the other hand, turn a fast summer crop into shelf-stable food that adds crunch, tang, and variety to your winter diet. Boston pickling is a classic variety that produces small, firm fruits perfect for brining in jars. Grow pickling cucumbers in zones 4 through 11 as an annual direct sowing or transplanting after your last frost into rich, well-watered soil. Train them up a trellis to save space and keep fruits clean. Harvest when cucumbers are 3 to 4 inches long for the crispest pickles, and process them using a tested canning recipe with proper acidity. A shelf lined with jars of home-pickled cucumbers does more than fill your belly. It lifts your spirits when the fresh food is gone and variety feels like a distant memory. The 28th crop that belongs in any long-term food security plan is an apple tree. Annual vegetables feed you this year, but fruit trees feed you for decades. Liberty is an outstanding variety for home orchards because it resists the major diseases that plague apple growers, reducing the need for sprays and increasing your chances of a reliable harvest. Apple trees grow well in zones 3 through 8. And a single mature tree can produce hundreds of pounds of fruit each year. Plant in full sun with good drainage, prune annually to maintain shape and airflow, and be patient through the first few years as the tree establishes. Once bearing, apples can be eaten fresh, stored in a cool root cellar for months, dried into chips, or preserved as sauce and cider. A healthy apple tree is a gift that keeps giving long after you have planted it. The 29th survival crop we need to discuss is hazelnuts, particularly American or hybrid varieties. Nut trees offer some of the most calorie-dense food you can grow at home, and hazelnuts produce faster than most other nut options. Arbor Day hybrid hazelnuts were developed specifically for cold hardiness and disease resistance, making them suitable for zones 3 through 9, where other nuts might struggle. Plant hazelnuts in full sun with well-drained soil, spacing multiple shrubs within 15 to 20 feet of each other for good cross-pollination. The bushes begin producing nuts within 3 to 5 years, far sooner than walnuts or chestnuts. Harvest when the husks begin to brown and loosen, then dry the nuts and store them in a cool place. Hazelnuts are rich in healthy fats, protein, and calories, and a small grove of bushes can provide meaningful harvests for a lifetime with minimal ongoing care. The 30th and final survival crop on our list is Chinese chestnut. If you are thinking truly long-term about food security, few trees offer as much potential as a well-placed chestnut. Mealing is an excellent variety known for large, sweet nuts and good disease resistance, thriving in zones 4 through 8, where American chestnuts once dominated before blight wiped them out. Chinese chestnuts are one of the most calorie-dense foods you can grow at home, producing starchy, filling nuts that can be roasted, boiled, dried, or ground into flour. Plant in full sun with well-drained, slightly acidic soil, and include at least 2 different varieties for cross-pollination. The trees take longer to bear than hazelnuts, often 5 to 7 years before meaningful harvests, but a mature chestnut tree can produce over 50 pounds of nuts annually for generations. This is the crop you plant not just for yourself, but for your children and grandchildren. And now for the bonus tip gardeners swear by. If you are serious about survival gardening, do not just grow these crops. Learn to save their seeds. Seed saving turns a one-time purchase into a permanent food system that renews itself year after year without depending on stores, catalogs, or supply chains. Start with the easy ones. Beans, peas, tomatoes, peppers, and lettuce are all self-pollinating and come true from saved seed with almost no effort. Let a few of your best plants go to full maturity, harvest the dried seeds, and store them in a cool, dry, dark place. Label everything with the variety name and date. Within a few seasons, you will have adapted strains that perform better in your specific soil and climate than anything you could buy. The gardeners who thrived through hard times in history were not just growers, they were seed savers. That simple skill could be the difference between a garden that feeds you once and a garden that feeds you forever. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.